Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to MSC. It's the Mid-Season Cup. We may have been robbed of some international play, but we've got some anyway. We managed to sneak some LCK and some LPL teams together to have a little bit of a matchup. My name is Munchables. I'm joined by these two chuckleheads for the rest of the day. This is Dagda, this is Hysterics. We've got the top four from LPL and LCK ahead of us.
And I am so excited to see how this is all going to play out. I was kind of missing a little bit of something coming into the start of the summer split, but I'm glad we finally got something.
We had that big gap. Where's the League of Legends at? And finally we get towards MSC with the two best regions, leagues in the world.
I can hear the riots from the G2 fans already. Let's take a look at how this weekend is going to be panning out across the next 4 days, including today. We've got our two groups which are going to be played in best of one, and then the top two teams from each group will move into our semi-finals, and then the winners into the final. The semis and final will be best of 5. But when we take a look at the rule book, one of the interesting things about the semi-finals, about the final as well, is going to be that the first game of each of those series will be best of 1. You can see that here in our rules and prize pool graphic, which will come up in just a moment. There we go. Game 1 is going to be blind pick. You can see it there on the third line. And the prize pool as well, $600,000. Not too shabby.
It's nothing to sniff at, but I'm very excited for that blind pick. I think everyone who's a fan of League of Legends remembers, though, it was called for Faker, what was that? And it was from that blind pick scenario we got it. I cannot wait to see it.
And hey, we got one of the players from that scenario as well, right? We got Faker in the tournament, the Demon King himself, so hopefully we just need someone else to place there.
Where is Ryu when you need it? Honestly, come on, mate. Either way, let's take a look at the teams that are going to be coming into the competition. You mentioned Faker already. T1 is going to be sitting there pretty at the top of Group A as they're the first seed coming out from the LCK. We've got Top Esports and FPX as the second and third seed out of the LPL. And then we've got Damwon Gaming to round out Group A as the fourth seed from LCK. On the opposite side of the bracket, Group B, we've got JDG, Genji, Dragon X, and IG. That's the first and fourth seed from LPL and the second and third seed from LCK as well.
And can I just take a moment to say, the mid laner pool in this tournament is so damn stacked. World champions, world attendees, and some of the best talent from these regions that haven't actually made it to that international
And in the Group A today, look at that. I mean, 3 out of the 4 mid laners that have gone to Worlds. The best mid laner not to go to Worlds and Top Esports as well. The lineups are stacked, and so are the matchups here, but I'm looking towards the first one because we have old friendships in FPX's Khan, who last year was on the side of T1, so he's going up against his old organization.
Yeah, it certainly will be, and we'll see if he has leveled up, whether FPX are going to be able to take T1 down. We didn't get to see them go head-to-head back at Worlds, so now we get that matchup for ourselves. That will be best of 1. Fingers crossed they could both make it all the way to the finals. Then we get that juicy best of 5, even with a blind pick. But that's a whole different conversation. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of Group A to start off with. And we'll start with T1 as the first seed of the group. I think it's only fair. And when you look at this team, you got to bear in mind T1 is the most winningest organization in the history of League of Legends. 3 World Championships, 2 MSI titles, and 9 domestic championships within Korea.
And they do represent the way we see LCK playing. It's this control, and the way we describe them is that slow-moving juggernaut. You either get caught beneath them and are crushed, or you watch from afar as they take everything on the map and your nexus to boot. T1 will control the pace of the game from minute 1, with Cuz and Effort working together to get vision in the enemy jungle and make sure you're not taking a breath without them knowing.
You said it so well, Dagda. They define the LCK. In fact, I think at this point, T1 defines League of Legends, and especially the man in the mid lane in Faker. He is the League of Legends player that everyone thinks about. And even using the word slow-moving juggernaut, this team is an impassable object, one that many teams struggle to get through.
And it's because they make so little mistakes. There's not a huge amount of gaps in their play, and especially when they've got so much information to play with, because of that vision that Cuz and Effort have worked so hard to get, it means they're able to move into positions where you're not expecting them to be. They know how they want to play out these fights, and they will execute to near perfection.
The communication, the experience, it all comes together on the side of this T1 roster. I always look at T1 as the team that will make the smallest amount of mistakes, and then if you make mistakes, they're instantly there to punish.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you ask me why T1 has such great vision control throughout the game, my answer is always going to be just because. And with that, I'm going to start to move over towards
God.
someone else in the bracket. The T1's first
please.
opponents of the day is going to be FPX, coming out from China. They came third this season, this split in the LPL, but back in 2019 summer, they won the LPL. They went on to win the World Championship, and now with Khan stepping into the roster as well, they've had some things to rearrange, but they're looking strong.
And I don't want people to see the third seed and think that FPX are a weak team, right? This is still the world champion. This is still the 2019 summer domestic champion as well, with all the players you remember from Worlds, plus, as you said, the addition to Khan. So they have a new dynamic in the top lane, a dynamic, that is quickly becoming really hard to approach.
And something that FPX have learned to play around as well. I mean, when you think of the FPX from Worlds 2019, it was all about getting these 4v2 dives in the bottom lane. Well, they've taken that knowledge and transitioned it towards the top side, where they'll often enact that 3v1 dive, make sure they're setting up Khan for success, and getting themselves rolling nice and early in these games.
But even individually, you look at Khan, you can see on your screen here, he's such a great mechanical player. In the past, FPX really lent on the fact that Gimgoon could absorb pressure and the rest of FPX could succeed. But with Khan, he absorbs the pressure and he fires it right back.
A lot of that pressure that we see from FPX comes from the man himself in the mid lane, though, Super Carry Doonby.
Yeah.
This is the guy you got to keep your eyes on, because he'll be looking to get out of lane, have those impact in the side lanes, and a lot of that teeters on what Tien can do in these early stages. If he can set up Doonby for success, if he can go hand in hand towards these side lanes and start that snowball rolling nice and early for FPX.
Giving him that freedom. Also, I love the fact that we're still calling him Super Carry Doonby, but we're also mentioning his dark technologies. He still has that wide, extensive champion pool. You never know what you're going to expect when you get towards the end of a draft.
Especially when we've got blind pick in game one of the
Yeah,
best of
good
fives.
point,
That's
good
going to be real interesting when it comes to those mid lane picks. But honestly, one of the most impressive things about FPX is often just their synergy. And you saw it in these clips. You saw it in those early fights. It goes on much longer than you'd expect. And there's extra cast members coming on into the scene constantly, and you keep on seeing more and more reinforcements, but they know how to play around that. The communication is incredible, and the way that they're able to pull results out of the hat is just exceptional.
And I'm looking forward to seeing if they can still do it here today against T1, because I feel like this is one of the biggest tests for them so far.
And I mean, let's transition the conversation then onto how this first matchup of the day is going to go, because we've got T1 going up against FPX, and when you look at it on the table, it's two very different styles of team, but both of them revolving around that mid lane.
As you said, we didn't get this at World. Finally, FPX and T1 meet up, and it is exciting. It is like a bit of a guess as to how best of one will go in the situation here, but you have to think about FPX and how they match up pound for pound, because as Dagda was saying before, can Doonby get out of mid? Can Faker control him? Because if Doonby can't leave, if he's forced in that lane, T1 will just run them over.
And I think that's actually going to be the biggest problem here for FPX, is I don't see Doonby being able to get out of lane. I think he is going to struggle, not only because it's Faker, but also with the way that Cuz and Effort have just controlled the enemy jungle for so long in the LCK. You won't be getting the helping hand from Tien, and when Doonby can't get out of lane, that's when they really struggle. We saw it in the playoffs against JDG. They banned away the likes of the Gallios, the Rumbles, these high-impact champions that can get to side lanes, and they just completely fell apart.
I mean, things like that, right, where Doonby stays in lane, you don't see those insurmountable leads where FPX control the early game, that 3-4k margin that teams can't come back from, and the roaming and the diving to set up the other lane. So that's a big problem that they have to overcome, and there's another point there. Tien is going to be a big factor.
Yeah, and as you rightly mentioned as well, a lot of it is going to be about that vision war between these two teams, whether or not T1 is going to be able to control vision like they always do, and if they can, is that going to stop the roam gameplay coming out from FPX? But now we've talked a little bit about the first matchup of the day, let's move over towards the second matchup coming our way, the other half of the group. And we'll start with top Esports, the second seed coming out from the LPL, went all 5 games with JDG in the final. And it's important to mention that this squad has made every LPL playoffs in the last 2 years, but the first time they made it to finals was literally just a few weeks ago.
And a lot of that is coming off of the back of Jackie Love entering this roster. They went on an absolute tear with their new AD carry, and they look incredibly strong across the board now. 369, magnificent in the top lane.
Yeah.
Knight, the best mid laner in the world to never make it to Worlds. And now you add that AD carry from the 2018 World Championship roster of IG, and it just takes on an entire new lease of life for this squad.
Because fans will remember at the start of the LPL spring that Knight and Karsa paired together, and everyone said this would be the best jungle mid-duo, and it wasn't. The communication issue was evident there. But then as soon as Jackie Love joins, it's a win streak, it's domination, it's finals for the first time in top esports history, and they're looking like a team well put together.
And this clip says it all. Look at Jackie Love and Knight taking on the whole squad of JDG.
And this is why it feels like top esports have leveled up with Jackie Love coming in. Karsa has been unleashed where he doesn't have this horrific mantle of trying to be the shot caller. He's now freed up to make those early game plays. And because you've got 3 lanes that have the potential to carry on this team, so many different play styles have been available, and they've played a plethora of different styles.
Which is so important because, as well, remember, individuality in this team is what sells top esports. 369 last year was his rookie year. He came through and people saying, oh my god, this guy could be as good as Zoom as the Shy, our top laners in the LPL. And then now you have Karsa, Knight, Jackie Love. The only weakness being support. Where can you go wrong for top esports?
It's definitely an incredibly strong squad. But on the other side of the board in their first matchup, they're going to be going against the 4th seed from the LCK, who have some pretty strong individual players themselves. Damwon Gaming coming on into Group A. And let's bear in mind that it's a similar story to what we just said about top esports. They've made playoffs ever since promoting into the LCK in 2019 spring. And in their first year of the LCK, made it all the way to Worlds.
People remember they were the 3rd seed for the LCK last year, went all the way through play-ins, came through groups and made the quarterfinals only to be knocked out by G2. But Damwon Gaming still a scary team. As Munchville said, that individuality is strong here to the solo lanes of Damwon Gaming.
Yeah, what Damwon want to do is win that top half of the map. You're looking at Showmaker to have a lot of pressure in the mid lane, and then as well enable Nuguri in the top side of the map. Even if he has to go 0-2 before he gets there, he still wants to outperform his top laner. And when you've got Showmaker and Nuguri creating these pressure in both the solo laners, it enables Canyon to operate one towards the top side of the map to again set up Nuguri for success, but also get in deep, start invading that enemy jungle and causing a ruckus for whoever his opponent is.
It worked together before. Remember, this roster hasn't changed much since we last saw it last year at Worlds as well. Only a couple of additions. You now see Ghost down in the bottom lane alongside Nuclear, but I want to come back to Nuguri because Nuguri is such a fun top laner to watch. He's so innovative. He adds so much character to the lane of, or at least the team of Damwon Gaming. The kleptomancy is gone, unfortunately. That was just so great watching him at Worlds.
I swear to God, the guy's dad must have been an accountant or something, because he was kleptomancy all of last year. Now he's building coal on basically every champion.
He's got a tax debt, man. He's got to make it up.
He just loves his gold. He loves to build the bank.
I mean, how are you going to carry if you don't have that gold? You need to get every little bit, and that's where Nuguri wants.
All right, so we talked about the strong solo laners for each team. Let's talk about this as a matchup then. Top Esports against Damwon Gaming. Strength in the solo lanes on each side. But then when we look towards the duo lane in the bottom side, looks a little weaker on both sides.
Well, I want to go back to your first point there, Munch, because I think we've got to look at just how these two match up pound for pound, and I feel like it's fairly even across the board. I know a lot of people won't have seen top esports before, but their solo laners are both incredibly strong, and you've got Karsa there who's looking to facilitate them in the same way that Canyon plays towards the top side of the map. But as you said, I think the bottom side of the map is actually where top esports is at its weakest. If you can look to exploit Yuanji and Chocho, the two supports, that's not their best lane so far. And even though you've got it paired with Jackie Love, you can definitely get in there and start to mess around with top esports. Unfortunately, though, I don't think Damwon Gaming is strong enough to actually go up against them in that Ghost and Barrel. I think you need someone that can actually get the help of Canyon down there to try and exploit that.
I was going to say on that point, because if I'm looking at, Ghost and Barrel, or I'm looking at Nuclear and Barrel, and I think to myself, well, that's not really a strong lane at all for Damwon Gaming either. I don't expect us to pay homage or pay attention to the bottom side whatsoever. I expect that jungle attention to be towards the solo lanes, especially when we talked about Nuguri, we talked about the volatility of 369 and what can also be done in the mid lane with Showmaker and Knight. It's solo lane heaven, and if I look at bottom lane, I think I might fall asleep.
Oh, we'll have to wait and see if that's going to be the case, whether we do have a brawl over on the top side of the map. But we're going to be jumping onto not only a new tournament here, but a new patch as well. We're jumping into patch 10.10. And I've nicknamed this one Pandora's Patch, because across the top-level solo queue around the world, we've seen some really weird picks coming through.
This, yeah, some very weird picks, I'd agree. We've got a lot going on at the moment, Dagda, don't we?
Yeah, we most certainly do. I think the most interesting one for me is that Soraka in that AD carry position in the bottom lane. So Soraka got nerfed to get her out of that top side of the map, but over the last couple of patches, they've been removing a lot of those nerfs, and now she's found herself a nice little home back on that bottom side of the map.
I just got to say, I'm not happy about this. I don't think anyone is.
No.
The Ziggs to me as well, Dagda, is quite interesting because off camera we did talk a lot about the flex potential of DRX, who we'll see tomorrow, who can really play around with this one.
Yeah, Deft has been having a lot of fun on that on the bottom side of the map, and it is flexed towards Chovy, but definitely one I expect to see in that mage bottom side of the map. And we look towards some of the other ones that are there. The mid lane, we've got the AP Kog'Maw, a different variety of the Twisted Fate with the AD coming out, and again, more supportive styles in the jungle with the Ivern, and Evelyn carrying the bottom side, or on the jungle as well, is going to make a lot more interesting.
Looks like a lot of fun. That's all I'm going to leave it at.
It certainly does. As a Kog'Maw enthusiast, I'm excited about Ivern in the jungle coming on through, but we'll have to wait and see. Kog'Maw in the mid lane too. We'll see whether those picks are going to come through. Bear in mind, these are picks we've found in solo queue, so whether or not these teams will be bringing them to the
LPL's
to the
in a tournament
stage.
might happen.
It very much
likely.
might happen. And we've got, I mean, we were just talking about Nuguri, we were just talking about Showmaker. These guys like the weird picks, but let's talk a little bit about predictions here and put some money on the table when it comes to our predictions for what's going to be going down. And I'm the only one that's seeing any sense here, because Top Esports, clear favourite.
That's one word for it, much. We'll tell you that
well,
much.
See, we had to try and show that the LPL isn't biased on the desk, so we had to try and go over towards the T1. But we all know that Top Esports is going to win.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing to take away from these predictions here is the fact that the majority are saying, or everyone's saying T1's going to make it on through. The majority saying Top Esports. Hysterics, talk to me a little bit about why you put FPX.
I mean, at this point, I think first and fourth are so secure to me. Damwon don't seem strong enough to get past the likes of a team like Top Esports or FPX. I think one LPL team, of course, is going to make it through with T1, who look insurmountable at this point in that first position. And I'm just so concerned that Damwon could come out of nowhere and just kind of right flank this one. But I think for now, it's safe to say that the world champions with Khan have fixed their issues enough to hold that second spot, as Mr. Valdez thinks the same thing as well. So shout out to my LCK brethren.
You guys definitely on the same page there. So, gentlemen, as we move towards our tournament, any final thoughts on what's going to be coming our way today?
Excitement, happiness, greatness. That's all I want from today. I'm so excited for this tournament.
I just want to get revenge for last rep rivals and just take down LCK, but neutral.
We'll have to see if that's going to happen. We're going to head over to our compadres over at the LCK LOL Park, as it's time to jump into our games. It's time to kick off MSC.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, guys out there from the LPL, for introducing the tournament. But we are back here, and we are ready to go. It's me and LS, a.k.a. Lobster Sauce, who is looking pretty good today. How are you feeling today coming into this tournament?
I am curious what we're going to end up seeing here on 10-10. I'm curious what the meta is going to end up being like. It's been 3.5 weeks since the last competitive matches were played. There was a couple of patches in between then, given that finals were played on different patches globally across the world, and there's not a whole lot to go off of. So I liked at the very end we started touching on some champion picks that we can expect to see. I'm curious to see what that's going to mean with these two regions colliding.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, we saw mentions of Ivern, Soraka, AP Kog'Maw. I feel like teams on the LCK side of stuff might take that kind of, scaling defensive type of play style, where I'm not sure if the LPL teams are really going to jump on that ship just yet. Who's going to the ship? That's the real question here at the LCK, as it always is. But now we're at the MSC, the Mid-Season Cup. So thank you guys for joining us here. We're going to be taking you through the first 6 games of the tournament. And then tomorrow it will be Atlas and Wadid bringing you the second 6 games before we do get to the knockout stage. So we got 4 days of amazing League of Legends that will be coming your way. And we should be getting into a bit of an opener as well, an intro to the tournament here in just a minute, guys. So hold on to your seats before we do get into that. Looks like we still need about 30 seconds or so before we do, but it's the top of the table here in Asia. It really is, and we got 8 of the best teams in the world, and I'm just really excited to get into it.
And I mean, we're kicking things off with T1 versus FPX, so That is quite a good appetizer to really get into it.
It's pretty amazing. But guys, we do have that.
미드 시즌컵에 오신 여러분 환영합니다. 긴 휴식기 동안 모두가 오늘만을 기다려왔을 텐데요. LCK와 LPL 최강자들이 모두 모인 이번 미드 시즌컵. 총 8개 팀이 앞으로 나흘간 각 지역의 명예를 걸고 치열한 대결을 펼칠 예정입니다. 자, 사상 최초로 진행되는 미드 시즌컵. 과연 새로운 챔피언은 누가 될지 오늘 그 첫 시작을 준비하고 있는 LCK 두 팀을 여러분께 소개합니다. 자, 새로운 LCK 시대의 라이징 스타, 2019 월즈에서도 멋진 활약을 보여준 담원 게이밍. 탑 너구리, 정글 캐니언, 미드 쇼메이커, 바텀 고스트, 서포터 베린, 담원 게이밍입니다. 자, 그리고 LCK 9회 우승, 월드 챔피언십 3회 우승의 전설. 자, 새로운 유일신 T1을 소개합니다. 정글 커즈, 미드 페이커, 바텀 테디, 서포터 에포트. 다시 한번 환영해 주십시오. T1입니다. LCK 팀들은 모든 준비를 마쳤습니다. 자, 이제 이들에 맞서 대결을 준비하고 있는 LPL 팀들을 만나보시죠. Candice, please take it away.
Thank you, 형님。是的，在过去的20多天里，我相信非常多的召唤师跟我一样，很期待这一次季中杯的到来。来自2个赛区的佼佼者，到底会有怎么样的精彩的对决呢？让我们拭目以待。接下来我们有请到的就是登台的2支 LPL 战队，让我们首先欢迎的是2019年英雄联盟全球总决赛冠军战队，同样也是百折不挠的火凤凰 FPX FPX。上路看，打野天，中路 Doing B， 下路林伟翔，辅助 Crisp。再次欢迎 FPX FPX。那么接下来我们登场的是天赋异禀的挑战者们，带着必胜的决心来到季中杯的赛场，让我们欢迎 Top Esports。上路369，打野 Karsa， 中路 Knight， 下路 Jackie Love， 辅助预言家。再一次欢迎 Top Esports。为时4天的季中杯即将拉开序幕，到底我们的选手们会带来怎样的精彩表现呢？让我们拭目以待。2020年英雄联盟季中杯小组赛第1日，精彩即将呈现。
我觉得 LPL 这个赛区的优点在每个人的个人操作都非常好，所以我觉得这次比赛应该蛮好看的。
중국 팀들은 역시 작년 롤드컵에서도 되게 좋은 모습을 보였기 때문에 이번에도 국제대회에서는 경기에
와! 마지막에 어떻게 되는 거죠 이게? 이걸 건드리면
T1的2位打野都就是表现得比较优秀，如果面对他们的话，我会在野区里打得更加谨慎一点。
这波龙看看啊，盲僧之内还有机会，700多龙是谁的？蓝河这波先行拿到一个大龙女强位置还是不错，剑魔级先行倒在地上，防普拉斯又是一波追击之势。
我觉得和 Faker 对线的话就，他这 ID 就压制力比较强了，就我和他打的话就把 ID 遮住就行了，就打好自己的应该也能把自己发挥出来。
这边在等你闪，然后再给技能，看到了，对的 A 杀，我的天哪！哇
제가 나이트 선수랑 작년에 이제 리프트 라이벌즈에서 한번 만난 적이 있는데 그때 제가 이겼어가지고 좀 더 상대하는데 자신감이 있는 것 같아요.
야 이거 투실이 죽었고요. 투실 죽었고. 야 완전 너무해야지.
这次比赛对其他整团来说是一个很好的锻炼机会，希望我们能打到后面。
결승 가보고 싶다? 결승이라는 무대를 MSC든 리그든 어느 대회든 좀 가보고 싶다는 생각이 좀 있어서 결승을 좀 가보고 있습니다.
我们正在调整我们的状态，希望这次 MSC 比赛有好的成绩。
국제대회 우승 전적이 없어서 한번 제 커리어의 국제대회 우승을 한번 놓고 싶네요.
Guys, we are here at Lal Park, bringing you all the action for the Midseason Cup 2020. It's me, Valdez, with LS, and that was a pretty hype opening video, LS. We got these 4 teams coming in for the first day that are going to be bringing us some pretty insane League of Legends action. I mean, we have the 2019 World Champion team, FPX, Fun Plus Phoenix, up against T1, a many-time World Champion themselves. And they're going to be going head-to-head here on the Rift. It's going to be some pretty fun stuff, Ellis.
No, and I'm expecting that T1 are the favorites coming into this match. We're just going off of the finals and the playoffs of each respective regions. And just T1 looking so dominant also in their series. So the lineup today is going to feature Khan up in the top lane for FPX, with the rest of the roster not too much of a surprise.
Yeah, he really popped off in that 3rd, 4th place match against IG, up against the Shy in the top lane. We saw a little highlight of that during the pre-show from the LPL guys. Well, thank you once again to you guys for holding that down. Wish we could have you here, but the technical issues to get that all set up were a little bit too much to have it work. But we're going to be still bringing you the action here from Korea while having the teams here in the LPL arena. You can see that Khan, as we did mention, is going to be starting here instead of Gimgoon for this first game. Of course, that can change as the tournament does move along.
And we'll see what their approach in game number 1 is going to be. And this is best of 1. So best of 1s get a little bit tricky when it comes to how are you going to try to approach the meta as well as your particular opponent. Because obviously, I would actually expect that the LPL might have an edge in the best of 1s before we head to the best of 5 format.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you there. I think they can really come out swinging and catch a lot of these defensive LCK teams off guard. I think that T1, though, might be a little bit, not immune, but a little bit better prepared for that kind of thing. They've been on so many international stages before that I think, as you mentioned before, I think it's Fun Plus Phoenix's job to kind of come in here and be the underdogs and try to take over against T1, who, with their new lineup here, Cuz in the jungle now, they got Kana, a rookie, up in the top lane. It's kind of funny because it's Khan versus Kana in the top lane for the first game. Kana mentioning Khan many times in interviews, as well as Effort, who is a guy who, you know, used to be the youngest and the most new, the most green on the team, but actually he's really shaping up to be a big top performer in the support role. I know a lot of us voted for him as first or second in terms of all supports in the LCK, so definitely looking to see if he can hold down that support role this time around. Of course, other names you will recognize, Teddy and Faker, are going to be also rounding out this lineup.
And you can see Kana on the screen right now. He is going to have a bit of a hard job cut out for him here. This game number 1, trying to really find the right words to describe it. And this will be interesting to see how he is going to fare here today. But then also just T1 in general, because again, there's a lot of expectations on them coming into this tournament. If you saw how they performed in the second half of LCK Spring, as well as, again, in the finals versus Gen.G, so dominating. And it's only been a couple of weeks since that's happened. So we'll see what they're able to do. There is also the factor that there's the ping.
Yes.
That is manually set in place that I believe that we spoke about before. So
yeah,
I wonder what that's going to sort of influence.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know a lot of the guys, especially here in Korea, we're used to playing on 8 to 10 ping, right? It's kind of the baseline, the standard. Sometimes you'll feel like you're lagging if you hit 11. I know I'm not the only one on a desk with LS. But now we've set the ping to 30. So it's going to be 30 for everybody in the game on both sides. So we don't really have to worry about that, even though we are playing online. And it's definitely something to talk about. It will be a kind of new feeling when it does come into the game, even if it is a very minuscule one.
The interesting thing is I remember back when I used to live with Samsung White and Blue, when they were MVP, Blue, White, Red, and or MVP Ozone, etc. Sometimes they would play in tournaments that were online in China, and they would complain about 40 ping, saying, don't pick me this champion, or I won't play this champion in 40 ping, because there's things that you can't do. And so, interestingly enough, certain champions might be not selected on the basis that maybe they don't want to be out of their element with certain abilities. I know that Jace and Ezreal, for instance, are two champions that can get influenced even by this minuscule amount, or at least in the eyes of some of the professional players historically.
Yeah, no doubt.
Was it Faker who complained about NA ping once?
Probably.
It might
probably was him. Yeah. And we've made many jokes about that in the past here, even in Korea, where it's like it jumps up to 20 and the players are like, nope, no, we're not playing on this. Not happening. Absolutely not. But we are getting into the pick ban here, guys. FPX on blue, T1 on red for this best of 1.
Something's never changed, Valdez. T1 opening with Elise, FPX having banned away Set, and now Trundle getting banned away. So Graves, okay, there it goes. All right, this is going very quick. Not really wasting any time. And so the meta, now this is going to be really defining, not just for this tournament, but also for the LEC, for the LCS, LPL once it resumes, LCK once it resumes. This is going to be basically the tournament that can sort of set the competitive standard, perhaps, for what's going to be happening in maybe scrims over the next couple of weeks before all the splits resume in summer 2020, as Aphelios is going to be picked here B1 by FPX. Now, T1 can respond in traditional fashion to punishing Aphelios with just long-range control.
Syndra.
Syndra, Orion.
Syndra flex.
Lots of long-range mages are pretty good. Now, Callista's being hovered. She is still able to be flexed.
Yeah, definitely can be flexed rather. And Syndra, definitely something we mentioned. We see a bit of Syndra jungle from time to time in solo queue. Not so much in pro play just yet, but it's not going to come in here as Olaf is going to be the pick into the jungle.
So they have Kalista Olaf so far. We don't know if the Kalista is going to go top lane yet or AD carry. And FPX now with the Kindred lock-in. Now, interestingly enough, Kindred can go top lane, not just jungle.
Okay.
So this is definitely a interesting pick here at this point in the draft because it conceals whether or not it's top Kindred or if it would actually be jungle. If Aphelios wasn't locked in, I would say you can even go AD carry because there are Kindreds on the Korean solo queue ladder as well as in the Chinese solo queue that will play Kindred in AD carry mid and top. So would be interesting to get that here on game 1 opening as Jace has been selected for T1. Lots of early aggression and lane control coming out of them.
Which is not necessarily something we were expecting from an LCK team. We were leaning more towards the LPL teams to bring in the flair, you know, the fire, especially into the early game. You know, Tian, a very famous Lee Sin player, is going to potentially not play that just yet. Wukong is going to be banned, so this is definitely something that we see a lot in solo queue. It has been changed and buffed a bunch, and they will respect that up against FPX.
And Thresh and Tarek were both banned away, so they're acknowledging that the Kalista is likely going to be bottom. And now Braum is being hovered. And now it's swapped back over to Gragas. Now, Gragas is very good against Kindred, because you can knock everyone out of the Kindred ultimate. And so, in a vacuum, I suppose that is an answer. Olaf, I suppose, could be flex top lane. They have that going on. This is a very interesting game number 1 draft here, Valdez. Is FPX trying to decide on what their support is going to be. And it might not even be a support. It could be a dual flex, given that it is Doom B. So the Nautilus could go mid. Karma can still go bottom.
Doom B can pretty much play anything. When you were saying top Kindred, I'm like, hey, why not Doom B on Kindred mid? You know, who knows? Definitely could happen.
Ooh. Well, that's probably going to signal that Karma will be in mid if that Renekton is locked in. No, hovered and switched over to Vladimir. It's been a very long time since we've seen him. And what is T1's final pick going to be? Because as it currently stands, it looks like they're missing a mid laner. Corki is being hovered right now.
Yeah. Another one of these mid picks that has rose in priority in recent times. Once again, he is back as a safe, scaling, mostly AP damage, kind of AD carry style, though, in the way that he does play. Going into the mid lane, of course, Faker, no stranger to the Corki. And it does look like it will be the Karma in the mid lane to go up against that Corki.
And it seems now we're going to wait till the 20-second mark just to make sure there's no more swap shenanigans that are going on anywhere. And it does look like, okay, so Corki will be in mid against the Karma. You have Jace against Vladimir up in top lane. So the onus is going to be on Kana to try to make something happen. And interestingly enough, it's looking like it's going to be the LCK that have the responsibility on them coming into game number 1 to try to get the ball rolling in the mid stages of the game to convert into something meaningful. They do still have some late game scaling on their side with the Corki. The fact that Kalista actually has a lot of potency against a lot of the champions on the side of FPX, but that Kindred, the Vladimir, and the Aphelios is really, really scary.
Yeah, I mean, if you sit in the game for about 200 years, they're going to be really a big composition, and as you were mentioning, they're going to kind of overcome the T1 comp in the very late stages of the game. So definitely interesting. Guys, we're going to jump into game number 1 right now. Here we go, right onto the Rift. No whitings, no gyos, nothing like that just yet. Hopefully in future seasons and tournaments we can get back all that fun stuff. But for now, we will be playing here on this Rift. As it's interesting that Kana, you know, a guy that has mentioned Khan many times in interviews as a top laner that he's looked up to, a guy that he's learned a lot from. He's going to go ahead and pick the Jace in game 1 straight up against Khan, who has been known for his Jace play in the past. And we do have Nuguri in the tournament as well. Damwon's top laner, very famous for his Vladimir, but the Vladimir gets picked much earlier than we will be seeing him play. He will be playing in the next game, in fact, against Top Esports.
And I'm really excited to actually see this Kindred pick here and what FPX can manage to do with it. I think that she is extremely undervalued for such a long time now because her ultimate is so game-breaking against some team compositions. And just the fact that even though she's not designed to really go off in the early stages or the mid-game, if she does, she just takes over the entire game.
Yeah.
And so it's a very interesting kind of jungler. So T1 now. Just going to be having a pretty standard opening here. Cuz is just going to full clear his red side jungle. Tien opened up with a blue steal. And taking a look at the runes, everything is pretty standard across the board.
Yeah, don't really notice anything too out of the ordinary when we do take a look at the runes. Of course, the Unsealed Spellbook Karma was kind of highlighted earlier on. Tons of utility, about as much as you can get in one champion package. As we do have to talk about the jungle early game. There was a bit of an invade. The scan from the red trinket did miss the one ward from T1, but it didn't catch the invade. It only saw Donby moving forward. And so, Cuz is not going to know. I do not believe that this is happening. He's going to see the blue buff being taken. He should know because of the delay in the jungle path from Tien, but it's kind of too little too late at this point just to know it, as he's not going to be able to efficiently respond other than going for wolves and clearing the rest of his jungle, so he will be 3-buffed by Tien on the side of FPX.
Yeah, and Olaf's going to transition this into picking up the right side Stomach Crab as soon as it spawns. Faker has control over mid lane, and it must be nice. Tien does roll like a god, the Kindred mark on the left side, although he's not pathing towards it right away.
Yeah, and he's going to be seen too, so...
Yeah, ends up getting spotted out and didn't path towards it, and you can see Doinby had a lane reset, so even though Kana had priority up in top lane, Tien likely would have been able to actually sneak that mark. And so that's going to be a bit unfortunate for him. Kana very low on mana right now up here in top lane. Does still have 2 corrupting charges left. We'll see if he actually would just elect to cheater recall on this next wave, because it's going to be really hard for him to achieve anything here against this Vladimir on this wave or the follow-up wave. Kana's just sitting pretty.
Yeah, he's sitting back. He's putting on immense pressure. They were kind of giving the top side of the map over to Cuz, even though he didn't take it. He's still going to be able to take that scuttle and have a lot of vision control. So kind of doing well up in the top side, but you do have to point out that Khan is keeping up in the CS difference up in the top side and is feeling pretty okay himself. All the junglers just farming everything out for now, and it will be a little bit of a slower early game for now.
What we have to pay attention to is T1 needs to get early dragons. They have to convert it into something meaningful. First one of the game is going to be Ocean Drake. If you're a T1 fan, you want Cloud to come up second. That way you know 100% you'll at least get a meaningful soul. And Tien making his way up to top lane. Just going to clear out the ward. kind of difficult to get anything going with Vladimir when he's not 6 yet. As DoNB is going to teleport right back into mid lane, clear out the wave, and now he'll have temporary control as Faker backs up. He'll recall with teleport, and T1, they are going to get the first dragon of the game. We'll see if they initiate a lane swap off of this right away. It would be a bit early, but the timing would line up for it.
I don't see it.
No, it's going to be instant teleport back top.
Do have the teleport there. And you were talking about early Jakes for T1. They see Tian up in the top side. They say, well, we can just push in bot and rotate over to the dragon, take a very easy ocean. And with the Cloud coming up second, that means we will not have Cloud Soul. So should be a very heavily contested either Infernal or Mountain Soul in this game. Both of them would have to see them being pretty important, but I think Infernal is really going to be insane for both of these teams if one of them can pick them up. And could definitely push T1's weaker, very late game into a position where they do have the power to, you know, come over the top on FPX's composition. But it will come down to the gameplay as another mark is down on the bottom side here. You can see already Tian is trying to make his way up towards that. See if he can lock it down.
And Cuz getting a lot of HP and mana back from that honey fruit. Scuttle Crab getting a little hungry himself.
Little snack.
Yeah.
And you can see Faker having a little bit of trouble. That hook was not going to hit him. It hit the little nub of the wall that comes out, but he still flashes away, Cuz. And at the same time, Tian is going to pick up the mark and level 6. And so T1 is just going to have to say, okay, you win this round. We'll back off. But the extra pushing out of the mid lane gave a little bit of priority over to DoNB to be able to come down there and help out, as well as Crisp getting there in the fight a little bit ahead of effort. So props to FPX for being pretty proactive about getting that mark for their Kindred.
And Kana is having a really hard time right now up here in top lane. The Vladimir gets so much value out of the Seeker's Arm Guard, not just against the Jace, but also against the Olaf in an event that he would never end up trying to be ganked. But Kana's just doing such a better job than Kana already in this game. He's winning in CS as Vladimir against Jace, and Jace matchups are generally measured by how close you can stay to Jace, not by if you can actually beat him or not. So things are not looking very good for T1 on the top side of the map, as Kana, all he's been doing is pushing. He hasn't even managed to get a turret play. Nothing meaningful has been able to be converted out of it. And now, interestingly enough, the one time something might happen is because Khan was allowed to push back. So we'll see if anything comes from this. Kana does have Executioners now, so is able to hurt Vladimir, sustain a little bit inside of the lane, but Tian actually just going to start up the Rift Herald, it seems like.
Yeah, and an axe was thrown. It did look like T1 kind of have an idea that this is going on, but they don't really want to contest it just yet, especially because, you know, when you pick a lane bully and you can't bully lane, it's not a great feeling. As we saw Kana thinking about rotating down. He's still here. He's got to be really careful. But, well, looks like he's just going to be okay. As Tian is going to be able to back away. And we will return to farming. But that is a very big pickup very early on in the game. I mean, this is a 9-minute Rift Herald, 850. He's going to be able to get some plates easily from this. It's just going to be up to him on which lane he wants to snowball.
Well, we're almost at 10 minutes here in the game, Valdez. The score is still 0-0, so
yeah,
it's good to be back.
Welcome back, guys. Oh, man.
They don't call it literally can't kill for nothing.
Yeah. I mean, at least I think the next game is going to have a little bit more action, right? Damwon up against Top Esports.
That's what you think.
You would imagine.
Hopefully.
Oh, no. Oh, man. Valdez doesn't know. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of rough. You pick Karma versus Corki with the Manamune, then call. It's like, okay, well, we can just sit back and, yeah. That's about it.
And at this point, I mean, in the game, Corki is completely fine to just keep scaling up and doing his thing, but likewise, so is Kindred, so is Vladimir. So right now, this second Cloud Dragon is super important for T1 to get, because then the third Drake is going to be the one that you know... Oh, hold on.
They're collapsing onto Tian. He's going to be forced to blow that ultimate. The casket's not good to knock him out. And the huge shield and heal is going to be enough to get him to safety. That looked like an unsealed spellbook heal coming out from Doinby, full health, and now the return. But in goes Teddy and his support, able to pick up the first blood in the back line. But Doinby and the rest of FPX on the chase. Did they go too deep is the real question here, as Teddy is going to be locked down. Effort will go down here. Faker over the wall, trying to help him out, but there's that turret, and now the visual is going to come out. That's a lot of damage, but no lockdown. And it looks like the mobility of Kalista and the Corki will be able to get them out of dodge, but that's a 2-for-1 in kills going the way of FPX.
And so FPX, they come out ahead in kills, but the gold score still at the top is pretty much even. And what this also does is it buys a lot of time, but because of the way that the deaths occur, T1, Olaf is going to get to the Cloud Dragon. We take a look at the package landing right on top of Kindred. And the Gragas, unfortunately for Effort, the trees end up saving the Kindred. Just getting pressed against the wall there. Crisp and LWX very quick to collapse. Teddy and Effort go on to Tien, end up getting that kill there. You can see now in live.
Yeah.
It looks like
fighting for the Cloud Drake, and it is going to go the way of Cuz this time around, but what will be the damage? FPX don't want to go down without a fight here, as Effort is insanely tanky. He doesn't seem to die, and now it's a 4-on-3, as FPX a little bit too desperate to pick up the kills. And it looks like T1 will be able to lock down 3 on the back of this. You can see Doinby desperately trying to pick up that kill onto Effort, but it's not going to happen. Now 3-0 is Teddy on the Kalista.
And Teddy this is not a cuddly teddy bear, I'll tell you that much here in this game. 3-0 on the Kalista. And it's really problematic because Kalista and Corki are the two champions you need to worry about most. The Jace you can pretty much ignore in the later stages, especially because he really failed to do anything in the early stages of the game. But that was a very bizarre decision by FPX. After the Dragon went down, okay, cut your losses.
Oh, they really want to pick up this lockdown, or the shutdown rather, and they're going to hand it over to Aphelios. That was really tricky. We saw that Chris was really far away. He didn't have flash, and so Teddy was like, oh, I feel safe. But the heal coming out of LWX, as well as that delayed route from the tricky switch on the guns, means that they pick up that kill. And now with the Rift Herald, but he'll be able to pick up some extra money here in the mid lane as they pick up, it looks like 3 plates, as Crisp was looking to even dive the turret at the same time. And the action seems to have really blown up now here after 10 minutes.
Yeah, and we're finally getting some action. Kana also able to get some plates up here in top lane. Tien coming up here, gonna try to maybe make a play happen, but Kana gonna be really quick to try to get out of this. Still has the flash available, he should never die.
Yeah, the Hex Drinker is gonna get him low, he flashes away. Now Tien delayed a little bit, he hit the ward twice on his way up. I think he could have just gone straight up and maybe had a better chance, but either way, let's take a look at the replay.
This is what's so bizarre. So the Cloud Dragon goes down, and they funnel into this narrow corridor, and they know about Faker to the north. Aphelios wasn't here, and it was just a buffet for T1. That's really all that there is to say at the very end of this. Now, immediately after this, Kalista does go down in the bot lane, but this was such a nice victory for T1, and it is Infernal Soul this game, so arguably the best dragon that they could get, given that FPX has a lot of sustained damage in their team composition. Karma can really keep the fights going. Kindred flourishes in sustained fights. Aphelios and Nautilus likewise. So a Mountain Soul, while the resistances are nice, doesn't outright just end the game the way that it can against certain team compositions. So T1 rolling really well with that Infernal. Corki making his way to the Trinity Force. But we got 2 minutes at least until the action continues to unfold. Karma continuing on the full support utility item path as Ardent Sensor picked up, massive for Kindred and Aphelios.
Yeah, it's essentially like you got one ranged support, kind of a mage support in the mid lane that can do a bit of damage, but it's mostly there to support your 280 carries, and you get the Vlad with the shields, and then you got that engaged tanky support in the bottom side. So that is the way that FPX's team composition does round itself up, as Cuz heavily prioritizing that Rift Herald actually wants to take down this mid-tier 1. But at the same time, FPX will be looking to trade the turret down to the bottom side as a little bit of a skirmish here. Tian pretty angry after the way this early game has gone. And he's looking to take names, although Cuz, he's not ready to go for the fight. And see, they're still looking to push here. They want to rotate into the mid lane after getting that turret in the bottom side. And this is what we all love about the LPL teams. They love to be proactive and look for plays. They're not going to sit back and make the same play. They want to get as much value as possible. And here we go. They get the turret, but have they gone too deep as Chris is going to go down? The Kindred ultimate is too late. And now he's out of an ultimate for a good 120 seconds. That's a long cooldown on that Kindred ult.
Yeah.
So, you know, they get the turret, but maybe biting off a little bit more than they can chew.
And so all of this for the mid-tier 1 turret effort, used the cast to open this up, and Chris just going a little bit too reckless. He's done this twice now. And Kindred ult a little bit too late. As you did point out, it wasn't too late to where I would just say it's the ping, you know? It's not one of those things. Yeah, I can't really throw him a bone there, I'll tell you that.
No. Yeah, he had a good, let's say 700 MS to get out of that one. the extra 20 didn't really affect his play. As we're going to be looking to make a play around the Infernal Drake now. Very early as these Drakes were taken now. We talked about this T1 really prioritizing this, and so far it's been 2 for 0. Tian not really able to land the smite there in the second fight over the Cloud Drake. So you can see T1 going to let them leash here and look for an engage and just poke on the top side as, okay, it's going to be denied by the Valkyrie, and that's a lot of damage.
J-Shock Blast whiffs.
Yeah, it does, but they should be able to lock down this one. The smite is not going to come in just yet. Khan in the front, but now he is low. As T1, they don't necessarily have to fight this, and so they say, we're just going to back away. We got the Infernal Drake, now we're on Drake's Soul in 5 minutes. You know, good for you. You weren't able to really take much from us.
And this is the really scary thing, is that typically 2.5 items, it's online by 23 minutes, but not quite 3. Hold on.
Okay, they're not backing down. They say, T1, you dare fight us in the mid lane. We are going to chop you down like an old oak of a team that you are. As a lot of poke is coming out now in the mid lane, they clear the wave, and so it is going to delay the push as Faker is pushing the bottom side. So T1 able to try to stand back up after losing Kana on the top side.
So typically third items will generally be completed around the 27-ish minute mark, and that's not going to be online by the time the Infernal Soul is going to be up. And that's really the item breakpoint that you're looking for on Vladimir and Aphelios in this game. I mean, Kindred will have 2 items. Karma is still going to be there bolstering. I mean, if you take a look at this replay, and it is just very bizarre decision by T1. You don't really know what they were thinking, because you have Faker down in the bottom just pushing the wave, and there's no real universe where FPX is able to raise that mid-tier 2, and it's not the end of the world. Even if they could, it's 500 gold.
Yeah.
And the question that you ask yourselves is, are we going to lose this game if this turret dies here? The answer is no. So, giving a little bit more over to FPX, but the real scary thing for them is that their champions' base scalings as well as items is not going to be online yet by that Infernal Soul fight, and T1 are not only going to have the edge at it, they're going to potentially just be able to win the game at that fight.
Yeah. I mean, you take a look at their carries already. Just kind of ignore Kana in the top lane for one moment. So you got Faker 2, 0, and 3 with 2.5 items, and it's not just a regular 2 items. It's Trinity Force and Muramana completed with the Zeal, as well as a 3 and 1 Callista, who is struggling to get that second item, actually. Not quite as much farm as Faker just yet. Faker really the big boss of DPS on the side of T1. And I think it's really going to come down to key ultimates from Tian and Khan, but at the same time, you gotta look to LWX, who's 3-0, to try to somehow pull out the mechanics and, you know, be the underdogs in the team fight, but still win with the Aphelios. They're gonna have a lot of their money on that one player, and we'll have to see if he can pull it off.
Yeah. And it looks like DNB is gonna be going for third item, Death Cap. And that will mean that maybe he can get a second needlessly large rod prior to the Infernal Dragon fight. See if he can end up doing that. Khan.
Effort's coming as well. He's almost here. The cast is going to come down, but a good flash by Khan. That was close. If he did not flash that one, I think he would maybe not go directly into the arms of Kana, but Kana could have closed the distance with his own flash and finished off the kill.
The other thing that is going on here for Khan is that he's got a little bit of Build-A-Bear workshop going on here. He's got the Seeker's Arm Guard, Aether Wisp picked up, he has the Proto Belt, but this means that he won't have a second core item, I believe, by the time Infernal Soul does end up spawning, so this is a little bit scary. Kindred should be able to recall into the Black Cleaver, as Tian has been sitting on those items for a very long time. And all of the pressure is going to be on LWX in this last team fight because Faker is ginormous.
He might pick up his third item here.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to be pretty insane.
He's got an okay amount of CS right now. 244 at 2150. I'm not quite impressed, you know. I'm thinking, why not 245?
Yeah.
But,
you know,
he does have the third item.
And there it is, Rapid Fire Cannon. He's going to be just chunking people down. And this is the worry, especially for an AD carry like Aphelios. If he doesn't have the right guns, he can be pretty low range and just get poked out by champions like a Corki. So you don't, okay, we're not poking, we're just going straight into the backline, and LWX just disappears as Tian is going to be late on the ultimate once again. The burst coming in now from the chase is going to be enough, and this is going to be an easy cleanup for T1. As Cuz, though, is going to have to use that heal to get out of dodge here. Khan running straight into it, and Faker coming back in with the teleport. Should be able to take out Khan here as he is under that turret, but he does not have the pool any longer. It's Faker. They're going a little bit too deep after getting the win on that fight there, but still the jungler of FPX is down.
Now, fortunately for them, no one else on the side of FPX has teleport. LWX does not have it, so T1 are still going to be able to get the Infernal Soul, but that was a little bit reckless. Right at the very end there. They're going to pick up this Infernal Soul. Gave Olaf about half a longsword too, so nice little gold value, but I feel like the game now is probably over, Valdez. That Infernal Soul plus their gold lead, plus the fact that their champions are still just so much stronger, they're going to be able to use this to convert into a Baron really easily now. And even the support Gragas becomes a bit of a menace now.
Yeah.
With just his basic combo. So we take a look at how this all transpires, and Faker just saw lethal on Aphelios and blew him completely up as Kana tried to go in for the assassination effort. Very clean on the follow-up right there. Khan very slow to arrive to the fight. He got knocked up. He went to Pound Town. And then T1 did just really force the issue a little bit too much, though.
Yeah.
And they end up paying a bit of a price for it.
Yeah, it looks like the shutdown went over to Vladimir, who is 2-1. So, you know, you're only 2 or so mistakes away from, you know, again, they have Infernal Soul. It is going to be very difficult to throw this game from this position, but still got to be careful about making plays like that. And you can see they're just setting up for the Baron right now. Just trying to use that power that they do have. I mean, Faker he's like 3 champions in 1 right now as, okay. That was,
He's just trying to give him a drink. Leave him
hey,
alone.
You probably need this more than I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, if it went the opposite way, I'm sure that Faker could have 2-shot him. So, got to be careful. And this Kindred pick so far, I have to say, it hasn't been very effective. I mean, it is not getting the required ultimates to save your teammates against the burst that T1's composition does have. And that's the hard part about it. The burst that does come in so fast it's pretty hard to respond to on time. As you can see, Faker just going to say, okay, I took that last team fight into my own hands. I guess I'll take this Baron into my own hands. And with Kalista not on the Baron, they're going to say, okay, probably not doing it. But now Teddy is going to rotate over to this objective. When will FPX realize? Now they will, but is it too late? Now Teddy's on the Baron. Yeah. And it's too little, too late. Olaf going to smite that one down as T1 will pick up the Baron at 25-45.
And now, basically what FPX need to do is, well, no, not escape from the game. That's the opposite of what you want to do. That's not where the surrender button is.
Checking their video settings as to why, you know? It's like, oh, what's going on?
Basically, they need to avoid a team fight until Kindred recalls, gets Black Cleaver, and Karma gets Death Cap.
Okay, they're just going to go for the Olaf here. Again, this is a tank Olaf. It's pretty much pure tank as well, so.
Teddy's just, I mean, he's doing stuff up there.
And look at what they're doing. I mean, they have the poke to deny all these backs. And so as long as they have vision and they don't overcommit here, they can delay a lot of backs on the side. But Kalista is just going to join up with her team. Not going to push it too far, although I feel like she may have been able to as Ingo's Faker once again. But there's the leash from the Karma. Ingo's a Felios. They're considering getting in there, and now Faker is going to go down, but he does trade. As, again, this reckless behavior Faker is coming in today. He really wants to make it, you know, extremely sure to everybody that he is the one that's going to be making the plays. As Khan wants to try to rival that here, as he is going to have to flash away. But do they have the damage to follow it up here? Finally, the Kindred ultimate is going to come in on time, but there it is. The huge burst damage comes out from Edward, and that's going to be the cast. The menace from the support, as you mentioned, is going to have the damage as T1 will look to push in and end this game.
And T1 are certainly going to be able to do so, I believe, as Aladios is coming up, but I don't think that he can do a lot right now, I'll tell you that much.
No, he's a little bit small this time around. Not really able to do much. He's going to poke down Cuz. Doesn't even get the kill. Kana going to come in there and take names. As Zoimbe not even going to be able to save his life. Will they? Look at how fast Faker is. He's going to go in, pick up the kill, and Faker will get out alive. Gragas is going to give his life, and that's going to be the end of the game. GG, as T1 will pick up the first game here of the mid-season cup. As FPX did put on a pretty nice show, especially in the early game. I liked how proactive they were. But T1 is making it clear that the predictions that a lot of the casters did make is probably what is going to happen. T1 looked to be the favorite coming out of this group by far.
Yeah, I mean, game number one, dominating fashion by T1. And FPX just really left sort of floundering about, and they had such a good and stable early game for the most part. I mean, Tien did whiff on the first mark capture opportunity, but then picked up the second one. They did lose the Cloud Dragon and the Ocean, but that was to be expected with the way that the lane setups were. Eventually, Kindred and Co. should be able to start fighting for the third Dragon forward. Didn't get to that point. FPX made a few reckless decisions, and some of the kills that they end up getting were mostly at the mistakes of T1, not through FPX really getting them on their own accord.
Yeah.
And so that has to say something as well.
Yeah, T1 was kind of like, okay, we're ahead. We have this unbelievably fed Corki. We're just going to run it straight into you with the package. And he did that multiple times, not even once. Even at the end of the game there, straight into the fountain, looking to take names. And that's up against the 2019 world champ. I understand it's not exactly the same players, but at the end of the day, still is a very strong team from the LPL region. And yeah, what a fiery game to start off this tournament here, LS.
I mean, yeah, this was a bit unexpected. And the way that T1 came out the gate drafting and just their approach to the game. But maybe that is going to really set the groundwork for the remainder of the tournament, because T1 was the team that I was expecting to be the most reserved out of all of the LCK teams, with Damwon and DRX being on more of the aggressive side.
Yeah. And we will be seeing that up next, by the way. Damwon up against Top Esports is going to be the second match of the 6 that we do have today. But before we do get into that, we're going to take a look at some of the highlights here and just figure out exactly how T1 did get ahead and what FPX were trying to do in this game.
And so this was the initial skirmish where FPX, they collapse first. Teddy goes over the wall, throws his Pikachu onto the Kindred, ends up getting a kill there, but then Effort does go down there shortly thereafter. Chris landing a hook onto Teddy as well, but just barely able to escape. This is where FPX was really just confused, I think, with their decision. They knew that Faker was collapsing from the top, and LWX wasn't here yet, so they just funneled in after losing the Cloud Drake, and it's not the end of the world to lose the second Dragon of the game. In fact, it was to be expected with the way that everything was transpiring. And this was another one where Chris just really having a pretty off game, by the way, with the Nautilus. Yeah. A lot of his hook attempts and engages were just very, very off. This was Faker's Kamikaze onto Aphelios. And, I mean, the game pretty much ended right there because this converted into the Infernal Soul Capture.
Yeah, and we were talking about that from minute 1 of the game, that could potentially happen if T1 start to build up those Drakes and get ahead. And you can see they didn't have to stay. They didn't have to go in there and dive the turret that long, but it ended up being the Infernal Soul Capture anyway. As you can see, Khan here desperately, he's like, okay, I'm level 15, you know, maybe I can get something going here, but I love the way that T1 just played front to back in a lot of these fights. Once the engage kind of failed from FPX, they immediately turned it around with big engages from Effort and even Teddy, you know, with the Fate's Call, able to help his support get into the back line, and it all kind of went into the Grand Canyon there on the goal difference over time as we dipped very deep down towards the end. Funnily enough, Faker not doing the most damage in this one. It was actually Kana up in the top side. Lots of trade damage, of course, in the lane, attributing to that. But 27 minutes, just about 28. 4 Drakes, 1 Baron, and T1 shut down FPX here in the first game and really set the tone for, you know, what it's going to be. You were talking about the way they were playing, how aggressively they were playing and drafting, but also the fact that they just kind of outclassed FPX in that first game, kind of setting the tone in everybody's minds to say, oh, okay, T1's the favorite in this group for sure. And again, we'll have to see the other 2 teams in the group. You know, I don't want to write them off just yet, but definitely a very big performance to start off with for T1 here.
Absolutely. And we'll see what else the LCK teams are going to have in store. I was excited to see the Kindred right out the gate.
Yeah.
That was very fun. And I hope that we continue to see more champion diversity. Because honestly, the meta has been so stale. Ivern is actually fantastic right now, unironically.
He's really good.
With some of the buffs that he has received, as well as the indirect buffs in regards to things that have happened around him, with meta champions, as well as the jungle changes and whatnot. Ivern's in a very good place right now. And I don't know if we'll actually see him out of the LPL or the LCK in this tournament, but it doesn't change the fact that he is.
Yeah, maybe we need a G2 over here to see some Ivern, but unfortunately that's not going to happen in this tournament. The player of the game is going to be Teddy on the Kalista here, as he did go 3, 2, and 9. Myself, I think I would have voted for Faker in this one, but it was mostly just a team performance on the side of T1 that got the job done. As you can see, Teddy, very high CS per minute, and was always present. I feel like the engage capabilities were highlighted more so than just the straight-up damage by Teddy on the Kalista in this game.
Yep. When we take a look at this team fight right here, so Crisp initiates the hook onto Effort. And Teddy just going back in. I mean, he had it handed it to him on a silver platter.
If not Faker, I think even Effort was a fantastic pick for this game. I mean, he had multiple great engages and baits as well on the support. Gragas.
I ended up giving Effort my POG vote.
Yeah, well, we have what's the opposite of a sinner? A saint.
A saint.
We have one saint here at least. Guys, but we do have the interview coming on in. It is going to be Ji-sun taking it away with Teddy in interview.
승리 정말 축하드려요. 2020 MSC 첫 번째 경기 승리하신 소감이 어떻게 되시나요? Congratulations on the win. How do you feel to get a win on the opening match of the MSC 2020?
일단 첫 판을 되게 손쉽게 좀 이긴 것 같아서 약간 얼떨떨한데 잘해서 이겨서 다음 판도 잘하고 싶네요.
I'm a little bit flustered that we got a little bit of an easy win on the first match, but I want to keep this rolling and get another win in the next series. 그리고 이번이 FPX와는 또 첫 공식전 대결이었는데 좀 개막전에서 월드 디펜딩 챔피언인 FPX 만나는 것에 대한 부담은 없었나요? So this was the first time for T1 to play against FPX, the world champion. So did they feel any kind of pressure going against the defending champion?
그 전에 좀 스크림에서도 있었고 솔랭에서도 다들 만나봤어가지고 그렇게 긴장은 안 했던 것 같아요.
I mean, we did play against them during the practice game scrims and also played against them in the solo queue. So we weren't really typically feeling a lot of pressure going against them. 그러면 오늘 또 옛 동료였던 칸 선수를 상대하는 것도 화제가 되었는데 칸 선수 상대한 건 어땠는지 또 궁금합니다. Also, you were going against your former teammate Khan, so how was playing against him as well?
동아 형이 저 팀에 있는데 되게 의아하더라고요. 근데 또 저 팀을 또 이겨가지고 또 기분이 좋네요.
Yeah, it was a little bit weird to see him on the other side of the map, but I mean, it felt extra happy to kind of beat him in the rift. 그러면 또 오늘 바텀으로 에포트 선수와 함께 그라가스 서포트와 짝을 지어서 바텀으로 갔는데 그라가스 서포터 픽 계기도 궁금합니다. And you also paired up with Gragas as a support. So, what was the plan in picking Gragas as a support?
일단 에포트 선수가 그라가스가 자신 있어가지고 그냥 한다 해가지고 했는데 잘 돼서 다행입니다.
Well, Effort said he's really confident in that champion, and I'm happy that we were able to get a good result in that champion. 그럼 마지막으로 이제 다음 상대는 담원입니다. LCK 내전인데 각오 한마디 듣겠습니다. And T1's next opponent will be Damwon from LCK. So how are they gonna prepare for that match?
다음 상대가 담원인데 무섭다고 생각합니다. 담원을. 그래서 열심히 준비해야 될 것 같고 잘해보겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Yeah, our next opponent will be Damwon, and I think they're really scary, so I think we have to do our best in terms of preparing for that series. This will be the end of the interview with Teddy from T1. 감사합니다.
감사합니다.
Thank you, Ji-sun, as always, for that wonderful translation as well as interview. So, really just adding on the jobs that she can do. Thank you so much. But either way, guys, we are going to look at the standings here. T1, 1-0, FPX 0-1. But again, still a lot of games to play just yet. 5 more, but only 2 more left for these two teams.
And we'll see what the remainder of the group does have in store for us. Coming up next, we have Damwon versus TES, followed by T1 versus Damwon. So that's going to be the first LCK versus LCK match. And then TES versus FPX will be match 4.
Yes, that it will. But guys, it's going to be a really fun day. I think a lot of these games are very interesting in the players that are playing and the matchups that we do have. Just like Khan versus Kana. Maybe we should have called him Kana for the rest of that game. Maybe would have made it a little bit interesting, or easier, rather, to distinguish them. But we should be having a quick break before we do get into the second match, guys, before we do get into Top Esports versus Damwon Gaming. So don't go anywhere, guys. We are going to be right back with that second game of the MSC 2020. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.